Hi Libra, how are you? Welcome to your February reading. So this is Cat Tarot and I'm Catherine, or shortly Cat. So I'll be your guide for the next while. So when I did the monthly readings last week, they all went puff. Windows Update just erased the entire folder, the entire basic external drive where I save it. Had to be just simply reformatted, and there it is, which was a message to me because it's a Mercury retrograde shadow. Kind of like try to approach it differently. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you first big messages, and then we are going to go into granular details. So having a spring equinox, a rebirth, isn't this lovely? All these rabbits for Easter. To me, it's always pagan holiday, which most Christianity doesn't understand, because you don't see rabbits or eggs anywhere in the Bible. But let's see what is this all about for you, because after all, we are really talking about February. So my dear Libra, my ascendant is Libra, so this kind of like really affects me and concerns me. So we have a Three of Cups or Three of Sea. Whoa, you have Lovers. I already know what is this all about. And then you have Eight of Sea. So you want something and you don't think you can get it. That's kind of like a summary, right? Mind you, this Lovers here dominates, and in this particular deck we do not have this angel hovering over and saying, are you sure, are you sure, are you sure? Like, you just asked me 5,000 times, I'm Libra, and I'm going to say, no, I'm not sure, just show me a different shirt, kind of a thing, for God's sake, right? Kind of a thing. This card is about kind of like getting to know somebody, and somebody could be a strange fit, but nonetheless they're there. They kind of like can make it. It's a sea dog after all, right? And it's really talking about a friendship, and I really think astrologically this is kind of like guiding us into, not only is the sun in Aquarius, but it's also Venus in Aquarius. This is when it's kind of weird that we have Valentine in the middle of it, but that goes to show only real friendship is going to last. And this is a time that we really need to develop this kind of like friendly attitudes with somebody, and platonic kind of like relationships, right? That's going to be very, very important. Also, we are going through Mercury retrograde, and sixes, which you did get, and nines, right? So 6 and 3 is also kind of like hidden 9 over there. Usually are kind of like placemats for saying Mercury retrograde, Mercury retrograde. Sometimes X's kind of like show up at a time that needs to happen. But interestingly enough, you also have this card, and it's 8 of Swords. It's talking about complete, I guess, fear. Something is surfacing, your fear, like kitty cats is stuck over here, and those bats are coming, which means the night is arriving, which is actually technically good for the cat. But still, you know, trying to really wiggle out vigorously is going to just hurt and scratch, and it's going to be even worse, because then the predators will smell blood, right? So the only strategy out of here is to kind of like slowly take the way out. In a traditional Rider-Waite deck, we see a woman kind of like captured with her feet in the water and a blindfold. So she doesn't know. She anticipates enemies, just like here, but really doesn't know who is the enemy. And the only one kind of like thing over here is trying to really do things quickly and kind of like in rush over here. So there is like something that will be happening for you this month that is really going to culminate around spring equinox over here. So that's March 20th, March 21st, right? Or September 20th or 21st if you live in the southern hemisphere, right? So that's the point when the sun crosses the plane of the equator, and the day and night are the same, kind of like length across the planet, right? So this is the Earth Mother. She is pregnant, right? And she's birthing once again. So crops again can be planted. So that's kind of like where that's big kind of like a celebration, right? So as I was telling you, this is kind of like personification of Venus, of of basically the Empress in tarot, right? The womb, right? The goddess of love and passion. And then you have a love and passion, and then you have the friendship. So these are all good bases, but something had to really jump in. Maybe something you really want and you feel there is like a barrier in the situation, right? Because the Christian holiday of Easter, as I told you, stems from this goddess. And in this card, we kind of like see some archetypal symbols, right, of spring that represents the three birds, like rabbit and eggs, flowers, right? It's the time for renewal of some sort. Maybe something needs to be kind of like seen through the fresh sets of eyes, but instead of doing it, you kind of carry that blindfold, right? So there is like some kind of passage that you guys been through, because this is coming to 9. It's kind of talking about something coming to an end, some kind of like finality, right? And kind of like feeling stuck in the situation, right? But you know, we are talking ultimately about the balance of the light. The day and the night is the same. So, and good and the bad is the same. So you're Libra. You're always measuring. There's always like that seesaw kind of like cycle. And there is difference in the cycle, is the cycle of rebirth, up and down again. Kind of like, it's kind of like these two opposite kind of like things. And I think that's kind of like challenging time. And I think that you may have shed some tears, and that kind of like helped you clear the way for maybe what has been gestating, right? Delivery baby, it's a painful process which kind of ends with enormous joy. So that which no longer serves you needs to be put aside, needs to be put to rest. That kind of like you can invite this rebirth and this kind of like freshness, and kind of you are reinventing yourself. So this kind of being stuck needs to kind of like, you need to put some thought into things. You need to kind of like apply certain strategy, right? Because keep in mind, sometimes birth can be painful, particularly in just the passage before delivery. Yet what is emerging is fresh and beautiful. Maybe something that kind of like was at some kind of odds, something that you're reaching the barrier, has to be just overcome in a different way. So let's check a little bit more. Now I'm going into my Celtic cross and see what we get there. What we get for my Libras this time around. So Libras, we are starting with the Hermit. I told you 9 and 6s are placements for Mercury retrograde. So it's something from the past that you're processing. Maybe you want to be on your own. This is signifying new moon. That's February 11th. And that's going to be possibly a different approach to something. That's, remember the strategy that I was telling you about. It might kind of like reach fruition. You will really know. You'll intuitively know how to move forward. Technically, this is the timing where the best solutions come from inside. Sometimes we like to engage other people, we ask lots of questions, receive what comes back, what makes sense. Sometimes that advice is amazing. This time around, you just really need to trust yourself, right? Birth, nobody can step in those shoes and do it for you. You need to do it yourself, because Hermit has the same thing. That's why we have pomegranates, which kind of talks about this richness and environment, that kind of like you need to surround yourself with some elements that are conducive to better thoughts. And 3 of Fire. Oh my gosh, I love this card. Like, we're not seeing the source, but we know everything. We know what the kitty cat is going to do. This is just before you jump. And we know this is the action point. There is like, oh my gosh, this is direction. That's the decision. That's the first step after this deep thinking. You know, when people say, oh, he was overnight success, and then the actor goes, yep, I was overnight success, 20 years of struggle and poverty, and then puff, I finally got a role that kind of catapulted me to stardom, right? It takes a lots of perspiration, right, to get to the point where you really need to be. 6 of Sea, this is clearly Mercury retrograde. If you guys have exes, they will be slimming around you. They will want something around you. You'll feel very tempted because you also had the Lover's card over there. Now you have 6 of Cups. And this can mean somebody who was just let's say recent ex, but that can also mean somebody who is in the past in your life. So let's say connecting on a Facebook with old kind of like school year album, and somebody pops up, or on LinkedIn. It's just kind of like maybe you just leave an innocent kind of comment, hey, I just saw you popping up, and oh my gosh, we didn't speak like 20 years, how are you doing? And then next thing you know, like, they tell you their whole freaking life story, because that's what happens during Mercury retrograde in Aquarius. People feel very comfortable. It's that instant friendship, kind of like kinship kind of that happens. And you're going like, what did I get myself into? But at the same time, it's always interesting. It's almost like each of us, when we finish high school, are like a book that is just barely written. And you have a feeling at that point that how that book for a certain person will finish, but now reality is kind of like stepping in and giving you a different attitude. You have the sun, which tells me that you have been already thinking about a new path, a new essence. And the sun is currently in Aquarius, which entered on the 19th, I believe, of January, or 20th, 19th, I think 19th. So I think at this stage, you guys have been refocusing yourself, have been going in a completely different direction. Something just made you kind of like separate people who are really there for you, who are close to you, and people who are out there. Not everybody is supposed to know everything about you and kind of like deal with that. But that's kind of like how things really, really work out. And then you have the star, which is, again, this is sun, that can be Leo, and this can be, again, it's Aquarius talking about it. But you have now 3 major arcanas, and they're all extremely positive. This one is God. This is about feeling hope and feeling that you can kind of like excel, and feeling that things are going to be really, really workable and doable. And it's kind of like what we need. It's the first step, which we all see over here. So you started to move forward, but then Mercury retrograde stepped in on the 30th and you were pulled back. Maybe kind of like emotions started to surge, and that's what happens for air signs. You move, and then it's just like pulling you back, right? But we have such a strong mind, we are moving forward, even though you're going to have emotional triggers over here. So what is immediately ahead of you? You feel maybe abandoned. You feel kind of like left out at the swords. Other people got in the way. It's kind of like all these bad thinkings are buried in this card. Oh my gosh, I don't have enough money. Oh my gosh, it just happens to me. But if you really look at this card closer, these kitty cats could be, it just never kind of like comes close to show this. It's always freaking blurry, and I don't know, just with this card for some reason, maybe just camera, not the greatest camera, but you will see 2 cats here snuggling. They have a food, they have the fireplace, and before we kind of like go, oh, poor kitty, this kitty is actually outside. It has a freedom. As all of we know, it can have its own home, but right now it's thinking, okay, I guess you're not coming out to play. It can also indicate a third party situation where, finally things are kind of like falling, the chips are falling down, everybody knows where they're standing. Or the third party situation can mean you partner and work, your partner and a situation, your partner and a child that is impossible, right? So now chips are falling down. Maybe it's kind of like something that is making you sad. You're going to check it more. It's maybe kind of like immediate disturbance, but look, you are really, and this is really important, because the Aries is the opposite of Libra, and this card really belongs to Aries. It's called the Emperor. That means you as a Libra always want balance, and you kind of like, you got possibly injured, maybe you got possibly into that contemplative, meditative state where you just really wanted to figure out things for yourself, but you got this enthusiasm and zest, start moving forward, and something got in the way. But as I said, you're going to just dust yourself off and kind of like move forward. This is like what is shown here. Let's see your environment, and you're going to see some flirtation. Somebody's coming your way, and it might feel a little bit infantile. Somebody could be younger than you. It's after all kitten, Page of Cups. It could be just a wink and a smile, but it's going to make you feel really good. So don't kind of like pretend you didn't see it. Kind of like it's really, really important, because it's something that is part of this rebirth over here. Then you have hopes and fears. And this is kind of interesting, because these two cards are very similar in how they feel, except this is the beginning stage, and this kind of like it's the culmination. Here we have the moon, the emotions, the stars. We have the stars here, and we have full moon this month on the 27th. It's going to be in Virgo, and it's going to really talk about balance and health. And this is not only physical health, it's also about mental health. It's also about, hey, I don't want to feel this way. There's like this sense of, okay, I don't belong, and I don't know how to engage, and it just simply means you need to kind of like shift your vision, shift your positioning, or just shift your company, right? Because this tells me what you want is you want to feel comfort, you want to feel close, and it's not necessarily just one person. You kind of like have this need to maybe have a circle around you. Maybe this is telling you need to network. You need to find people around you who are nurturing, who are loving, with whom you don't have to necessarily tell your life. It's just enough to come and be and have a tea and have a coffee and just simply kind of like connect. We humans are all about connecting, because clearly this feel disconnected. You had the new moon, the 11th. Now we are right now going to full moon. So you can do your full moon meditation right now to kind of like set things straight. So you have the moon and the stars, which is really good. It's uplifting feeling, going kind of like forward. And then you have another 5 over here. So it's almost like going to feel, my dear Libra, you're going to be going 1.5 steps forward and then 3/4 steps backward. But you're moving forward overall. There is like time to jump. You already kind of like figure out why and where you're going, in which direction. And you also need to kind of like open your antenna. Your antennas almost looks like either broken or pulled in. So just put them out, and you can put them out by simply kind of like doing your meditation, doing things that are painful, because something good is really coming in the end. What is painful? Sometimes painful is getting over a relationship. Something is painful realizing something has to come to an end, even if you are the one who is breaking up. Sometimes what is painful is that your job is finishing, or that you're losing someone, right? Sometimes painful not to be a part of this environment and hugging and all of this stuff. Like you see in this movies, like, oh, everybody has this group of 50 people who are there for them. Heck, most of us can only list 5 or 3 or 1 kind of a thing. So you are kind of like reconfiguring your life, because this means about feeling a sense of loss, feeling kind of like that's normal during Mercury retrograde to some extent. I mean, this is telling me you'll be kind of like really emotional. You might feel out of place at times. So this Mercury retrograde, it's finishing luckily on February 20th. Just before February 20th, it's going to be really, really bad. 17th to 20th, it's kind of like, I think Monday to Wednesday or Sunday to Wednesday. Lock yourself in kind of a thing. Saturn and Uranus are going to, very strong planets, they're going to kind of clash kind of a thing. Uranus is even spinning on the side, and Saturn is, what the hell are you doing kind of a thing. So it's just like you put two very different people, a lion and a freaking python together. It's just like you're wondering what the hell is going to come out of it, right? Very two different approaches. So I think you need to really sit out until the 25th regarding romantic matters. Then Venus goes in Pisces, but then it's a tendency to overly romanticize a partner. It's a tendency to all of a sudden everything is cheery. Maybe somebody comes back in your life, and for a period of time it's all good, but you need to keep your focus. You need to keep your strategy. You need to kind of like go on the other side. There is no way back. With rebirth, it's just a one-way street, and you already are in the process, so you cannot stop there. Stopping there would kill everybody, right? It just would be a disaster. So instead of longing for things, that's exactly the wrong path you're taking. So you need to snap yourself out. You need to have tools. It's going toward the light. meaning kind of like cheer yourself up, watch something that is funny. Humor heals. Humor heals even physical ailments. And if somebody comes from the past and kind of like gives you some kind of attention and says hi, hey, you know, kind of like respond, because that also is going to kind of like create this goodwill and create this kind of like whole harmony that goes forward. I just want to kind of like clarify this kind of like mostly these vibes. Vibes are always something that is agitating or sad. It's merchant. Do you feel that you're merchandise, or do you feel that like something have sailed out and you have lost your boat of some sort? That can talk about the finances, that can talk about how to really cover yourself up. This is generally a business principle, even though I more or less feel it's kind of emotional. It's kind of like you're trying to present yourself to the others as, you know, I'm all cool, I'm all connected. And you kind of like to most extent you are, but these are some of your inner feelings that you really kind of like experience, and it's maybe hard to put them in words, right? This can talk about some secrecy. As I said, it can be a third-party situation. It can be clandestine affair, secret meetings. You don't want something to be known. It can be, for example, marriage that kind of fell through. What else? I would just say simply this card talks about success is on its way, but there is like still a process that needs to happen. So you just need to trust. You need to kind of like have your North Star and telling yourself, I'm going there. I know I'm making these points and this is what is good for me. And you intuitively know. You just have to ask your higher self what my higher self would do in the situation. So you're in a donut shop and you say, what would my higher self want to do? And your higher self says, get the freaking out, right? You would always get the answer. So my dear Libra, would love to see your comments, but even better if you can drop the questions regarding this reading so we can see what's going on in that beautiful head and a smart brain of yours. And lastly, let me tell you, and you'll see probably Barbie's messages. Barbie is a master moderator. She's a Libra as well. And so come on Saturdays on live. It's 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're not on my YouTube subscription list, please do that and put a notification bar so you can get notification. Also, people who are on my Instagram and Facebook get notifications as well. I'm not that great about Twitter. Probably I should get better. That's one of my resolution, kind of like get yourself a little bit better on social media. So lastly, guys, if you want to get a reading with me, contact me via cattarot.ca, and my email is down in the description box. And don't forget, check your ascendant, check your sun sign, and check your moon sign. The link is down in the description. You can find out which they are if you don't know already. And yeah, it's going to give you some messages and kind of like glue them together. If you want more, you know where to find me. I love you guys. Hopefully I see you on Saturday. And until the next time, happy Valentine's Day. I wish you all the best.